Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with Normal. I'm J.M. Padini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. It's Friday, October 18th, 2024. You know what that means, friends. It's time for me to answer all of your burning questions live. Look, I don't know if Instagram is working for if someone wants to look in two places at once. That'd be fun. I don't know. I don't know if it's streaming on Normals. I mean, I guess I could have looked on my phone. How about that? Let's do that. Let's see. Do you think Normal's live on Facebook, Instagram? No, they're not. Try that again. So, thank you for joining us this Friday afternoon and hanging out with us here at Live with Normal. I want to know where you're watching from. So, drop a note in the comments. Oh, really, Chris? It's streaming on Normal on Instagram. Not me trying to redo it. I don't see it. I only see it on Virginia Normal. I'm going to fix it. It's going to be great. Hi, Laurel. I can see you on that Instagram too. Thank you, Laurel. Hey, Chris in South Africa. Thanks for joining us. I always love when you're here. Let's see if I can fix this one. Sorry, Instagram. Let's remove that one. Yeah, let's just add it again. It'll be fine. Everything's fine. Look, I did it. It's not a trap, Wade. I swear it's fine. Hey, Rob in Vermont. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. Hi, Ellie. Okay, I fixed it. I fixed it on the Instagrams. I'm so glad you're here, Ellie. Someone mentioned you. Oh, Jack. It was Jack mentioned you last night at dinner. Hi, Wade. Happy Friday to you. And Nick and Chris and John. Thanks for joining us. Hey, everyone. Hey, Rundak on Instagram. Thanks for joining us. Hey, everyone else who just joined us on Instagram, take a quick second to hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're watching so you never miss when Normal tries to go live. I don't know what happened earlier, but it was not working out well. And there was like two of me in the studio, and all I could hear was the echo. We're not doing that. Hi, Rebecca on Instagram. Thank you, Ellie. I appreciate it. Fred, what are you doing in Thailand? That's got to be an amazing trip. Thanks for joining us while you're there. Thank you, Wade, for confirming that it did sound awful. Got some news to talk about. I really want to know, hey, what questions do you have for me about cannabis policy? Drop those in the comments. And if you're watching this after the fact, you can always email us at normal@normal.org. Rebecca, I'm great today. Thanks for asking. Rob, you love Normal and Willie Nelson. That's like peanut butter and chocolate. Thanks, Rebecca. All right, let's get down to some news. Which do I think is the most? This is the one that I think this is the story we're going to lead with. This week, the Harris campaign released a lot of policies, but in particular, they released a policy agenda that includes a pledge to, and I quote, legalize marijuana at the federal level. If elected, Harris promises to, quote, work with Congress to ensure that the safe cultivation, distribution, and possession of recreational marijuana is the law of the land. Got no qualms with that statement there. But listen, here's something really important. The president can't do it alone. So, regardless if you're thinking about voting for president, you can't end federal prohibition unless you can put the bill on the president's desk. So those down ballot races matter. You need to vote, and you need to vote for people who aren't terrible in cannabis policy, unless you like terrible cannabis policies, and then by all means, don't. But listen, I don't know that it's a smell of desperation. I think it's something, at least in this regard, when it comes to cannabis, these are the statements that the public needs to hear on cannabis policy. Half-hearted, like, oh, like, I don't think marijuana should be illegal. Okay, great. What are you going to do? This is an actual policy proposal or commitment, as it were. That's real. Saying, yeah, okay, like, I think we should leave it up to the states. Okay, well, we're not talking about what the states are going to do. We're talking about the federal level in the context of these candidates. So this is something. This is meaningful. Hey, the Blue Dream, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I see you down there, Nick. Electioneering promises. Yeah, Chris, I think Chris from South Africa says these are electioneering promises. But Chris, I will say this is a very smart approach, and it is a pledge to work with Congress, because this is someone recognizing that it is Congress's responsibility to pass legislation that can end federal prohibition. So. Mimi, oh my goodness, it's me, myself, and I. Hilarious. Me, myself, and I. You can find where the candidates stand on cannabis policy in NORML's Smoke the Vote, our voter guide. So head to vote.norml.org. That's vote.norml.org. And you can see where the candidates on your ballot stand. Now, it's possible that you may see someone on there and they don't have a grade. That's because they don't have any history on cannabis policy for us to see, nor have they submitted the candidate questionnaire that we send out. So if you have information on them, you're welcome to submit that through Smoke the Vote, or you can just encourage the campaign to complete our survey. Hey, Ricky, on Instagram, asking anything new for Georgia yet? No, nothing new for Georgia yet. Not yet. Georgia, you can do it. It's time to be thinking about legislative session, though. State legislative sessions, in addition to the election. It's October. A lot of legislative sessions start in January. So if you're thinking about doing something, also time to be having those really serious conversations with folks. Ellie, I want to get to your question. Ellie has some question about Virginia. I don't think he cares about CCA in any capacity. I got distracted in the middle of our conversation, Ellie, so now I'm going to answer Wade's question. This is talking about the Harris statement. Wade says, that sounds like making it just as regulated as alcohol. How could that be if it's rescheduled? They still have anything to do with each other, honestly, Wade. Rescheduling would not have any impact on the consumer experience. Now, the thought is that with rescheduling, as I'm sure you've been in conversations with us before about this, the hope is that with rescheduling that state licensed cannabis businesses would finally be able to take standard business deductions on their taxes, and when a business isn't so expensive to run, then hopefully you can reduce the cost of your goods, the price of your goods. And so we would like to think that maybe this would result in lower prices for consumers, particularly on the East Coast where they're not experiencing low prices at all. But when it comes to being just as regulated as alcohol, yeah, that's the point. but rescheduling and ending prohibition are two different things. Rescheduling is this very prescribed process that we're going through right now, and it's fine to go ahead and have that process play out. It could be many years. It could also be many years before Congress finally passes a bill to end prohibition, but it's Congress that has to take that action. So, apples and oranges, they can coexist. It's fine. Okay, sorry. Oh, Fred, we'll talk. We'll stay on the Harris train for a minute here. Why does she not do it now? She's the VP. She can't. Vice President. The vice president can't. Can the vice president, talk to members of Congress? Heck, she. Actually, let's rewind that, Fred. When she was in Congress, she did that. When she was in Congress, she did patron the MORE Act. She was the sponsor of the MORE Act to end prohibition. So yes, when she was in Congress, when she was in a position to do something about it, she did try to do something about it. Yeah. And then now she's the VP. The VP can't. That's not something they do. It's the only candidate to have like a really to put forth a policy, Wade, as opposed to just like a generic opinion, or like, oh, I'll just like leave it up to the states, or like, that seems okay, or I'm for it, or weak statements. Chris, not really. Chris asked if Canadian cannabis policy has any effect on American cannabis policy. I don't think it does. I mean, we could have better candidates to support Andrew, but we don't. This is the candidates we have. This is the election that we're in. Ellie asks, this is a Virginia specific question, what's my opinion of HSA 1? Great, super excited that a license was finally awarded. I'm sure AIR is ready to hit the ground running. I know that they are looking at, I just read an article where I think we're quoted in the same article, WMRA article. And they talk about finalizing site selection and things like that. And so just really excited for Virginia patients to be one step closer to having access in that whole part of the state that has no dispensaries. So that's what I think about it. Yeah, if you can make beer and wine, you should be allowed home cultivation. But I suspect, Wade, at the end of the day, that may be something that is left up to states, Hey, Aaron, thanks for bringing this up. This is actually one of our stories, so I'm going to skip down to the Nebraska story as well and give a little bit of context for everybody else wondering. So I'm dropping that in the comments now. Sorry, Instagram people, you can't see these links. Whatever. You can find them on the front page. Go to norml.org and then click news, and you can read the news there. Hey, local, happy Friday to you on Instagram. Peaceful. I'm sorry to hear that that it's expensive where you are. Yep. Okay. I caught up on the Instagram comments. Okay, let's get back to Nebraska here. Okay, so Nebraska has 2 medical cannabis ballot initiatives that qualified for the ballot, and these initiatives are printed. These ballots are printed, and Nebraskans are going to see this when they go to vote. But what has happened is a judge set a trial date to hear evidence substantiating the allegations by the litigants that these shouldn't be on the ballot. These didn't actually qualify. And the date is set for October 29th. Of course, early voting's underway, and that's what Aaron's talking about. So yeah, Nebraskans will likely pass medical in November, says Aaron. Just normal hope of legal battles that are expected to overturn voter approval. It could possibly. I mean, the campaign ultimately is going to be responsible for that, but oftentimes NORML will draft an amicus in a legal proceeding in support of whatever's happening. So let's just see what happens. This is a weird one. Okay, let me show your great questions today, everyone. These are great questions. I love these. Okay, JJ asked, how often are law enforcement agencies leveraging unclear or conflicting laws between federal and state jurisdictions to conduct operations or enforce policies? I don't think that's a thing now. I think it was a thing when cannabis, I'm not saying it never happens, but if the state has changed their laws, then state laws prevail in that state generally. I can think of an example. This isn't necessarily this is the best example I can think of, where there's state and federal laws are different, and this is how that happens in Virginia. So in Virginia doesn't have a guns and weed charge. So if someone is going to be, and this would be like in a distribution case, if they're trying to do a guns and weed charge in Virginia, since the state doesn't have one, then they do have to make it a federal charge. That's the only context I'm aware of in this state. I haven't really seen this be a thing on a mass scale and others. I think local law enforcement's largely moved on when a state legalizes or adult or medical use. If you have had a different experience, someone in the comments, feel free to tell me. What? I can't with that. I like this question. Thank you for asking. What's NORML's position on high concentrated products? Some as high as 50% THC. Do I think there should be any specific label recommended for public? So there's just two questions. Do we think any specific label recommended for public? Yeah, the label should include a universal symbol for THC, so that regardless of what state you're in, you know that there's THC in this product. It should be clearly labeled as having THC, first and foremost. Since in regard to your label question, that's what's important. I think that on the label, you should know what's in there. So the primary cannabinoids would be good to know what's in this. Talking about concentrated products, the primary cannabinoids. Not every single cannabinoid necessarily needs to be listed out, unless you're trying to hide gross stuff in there, and then shame on you. But primary cannabinoids and percentages and the universal symbol for THC are probably key label components. But what do I think about highly concentrated products? What I think is whatever. Okay, probably could have done that better. Let me pull up our fact sheets, because we do have a fact sheet on high potency products. Let me pull it up and tell you about it, and I'll drop a link in there. And I think the link will go. What? I don't want. I think the link shows up on Twitter. Okay. I've never had to search so hard on my own computer for our own web page. There we go. Yeah, so our fact sheet is THC potency concerns. Are stronger products more problematic? The short answer is no. No, they're not. Here's a good way to look at this. alcohol and vodka. Beer and vodka, sorry. Beer and vodka. You get a pint glass of beer and you drink a pint glass of beer. You don't pour yourself a pint glass of vodka to have the, presumably, to have the same experience. You just have a whole lot less. It's called self-titration because you're 21 years old, you're an adult, you're allowed to do this, and you have the faculties about you to understand how alcohol works. The same thing applies to cannabis. Contrary to popular opinion, these high potency products don't dominate state legal markets. Most consumers tend to gravitate toward flower as their product of preference, which of course has a far more moderate potency. It can only really get up to, high 20s if you're pressing the limits. But, light beer versus vodka. This is the same analogy. What's most important is to keep in mind these things. Banning the retail sale of cannabis products above a certain percentage of THC will not eliminate the market demand for these products. Instead, it only, incentivizes consumers to engage with the illicit market for these products. And one other thing that I will add, and let's use Virginia as an example because that's where I am. In Virginia, you know what you can put in a vape here? You can put in cannabis oil. You can't put in other gross filler ingredients. You can put in natural terpenes, but you can't put in, gross carrier oils or anything like that. And when the cannabinoids are extracted, when the cannabis oil is extracted from the plant, it is by default concentrated in the extraction process. Don't you just want that clean cannabis oil in your product instead of having to have a manufacturer add some random filler product to dilute it down to whatever arbitrary potency someone with no expertise in this policy or science area believes is appropriate? People do not need to be inhaling medium chain triglycerides. That's not good for your lungs. Anyhow, I think we can let adults be adults is the end of that sentence. Yep, that's true. That's true, Wade. Hey, Chris. Chris asks if odor is, no, odor is not reasonable suspicion in Virginia. In Virginia, law enforcement is prohibiting from stopping, searching, or seizing a person, place, or thing based solely on the odor of marijuana. It has always, since the enactment of this law, used the language solely. So. Melissa, again, a Virginia question. Thank you. Melissa says, where do we stand now on making edibles at home in the state of Virginia? Yes, we did have something added to the retail bill that was vetoed by the governor. So here's the thing, Melissa, and this is an important code change that we need to make because it was inadvertent. The way Virginia code is written, it inadvertently indicates that it's, I don't want to say criminalizes because that makes it sound terrible. It does. It inadvertently criminalizes making edibles or using a grinder even at home from either legally purchased or legally cultivated cannabis. It's not meant to do that. It's meant to prohibit. It's meant to prohibit dangerous extraction methodology. It's not meant to say you can't make brownies from legally cultivated cannabis. The good news is, Melissa, we have not heard of this being an actual issue for anyone. Again, if someone has heard of this, please let us know. But that's not the legislative intent was never to prohibit those responsible actions. It was to prohibit dangerous, combustible extraction at home. Exactly. Melissa nails it. High concentration products are not the issue. Different people need different amounts. Just be responsible. Right. Well, I see the conversation here on Instagram about everyone in their everyone's different tolerances, different bodies, different needs. Yeah. Yes. Blue Dream is absolutely it's a new way to try and control cannabis policy is fixating on potency, and it's people who don't really understand it anyhow. So even worse. It's the new prohibitionist tactic. Is it still federally illegal, or has it been rescheduled? It has not been rescheduled. Ah, okay. Yeah, they cannot. Yes, you cannot use the smell of weed alone in Virginia. Hey, Nicole. Nicole on Instagram is asking what happened with federal rescheduling. So that process is still underway. This could be a multi-year process. Many of the scheduling hearing or processes that have happened before have taken many years, and so it's this one could as well. Where we are in the process right now is entities have submitted to be heard to testify essentially at the hearing. NORML did submit. We don't know if we're going to be invited to speak, but the hope is, of course, that we will be. And this is scheduled for December 2nd. It's scheduled to begin on December 2nd. So nothing's happened so far other than the process is underway. But you won't, if you subscribe to NORML, you won't miss any news. Go to norml.org/subscribe and get your email in there, and make sure you're getting our emails every Thursday and every Saturday. And you'll know. Insulin, that's, reasonable suspicion of what? Yeah, so it used to be a thing in Virginia. I smell weed, and then they would use that as grounds for searching your car. But we took that away. You have to say something else, and then you can say, I smell weed. You could say, I saw you swerve across the line, and I smell weed, whatever. But yeah, also don't drive high. It's stupid and irresponsible. Yeah. Thanks. I had some stuff to do this morning. So I have some stuff to do tonight too. Thanks. This is funny. We were talking about this last night. We let you write laws even if you're not a lawyer. Yes, Melissa. I can't remember if this is the 6th or 7th rescheduling, but there's been a number of scheduling reviews. Here we go. I will share that with everyone in case you're interested, and in case you want to read a whole bunch about rescheduling. We have a fact sheet. It's a brief history of cannabis rescheduling petitions in the United States. This one, of course, started in 2022, and so we're already 2 years into this one. It's not the first time, of course. 1972, NORML filed the first ever administrative petition to review cannabis's Schedule 1 status. That was a lot of S's. And it did result in a favorable ruling in 1988, 16 years later, where the DEA's own administrative law judge did determine that cannabis did not meet the criteria of a Schedule 1 controlled substance. However, in 1990, DEA Administrator John Lawn set aside that 1988 ruling. And then there were additional legal challenges. And in 1994, the U.S. Court of Appeals in D.C. decided to let Lawn's decision stand. In 95, Former NORML director John Getman filed another administrative rescheduling petition. The DEA denied that petition 6 years later in 2001. In 2002, a coalition of groups, including NORML, filed a third rescheduling petition. The DEA denied that petition in 2011, 9 years later. And then another rescheduling petition was filed a year later, so 2012, on behalf of the governors of Rhode Island and Washington, and the DEA denied their petition in 2016. So we're all caught up now on rescheduling petitions. You can read about those on the NORML website. I'm not ready for that question yet, Radhika, but I see it. I want everyone else to answer your question. I'm going to write mine. Yeah, okay. Okay, Ownbake asks, for those of you in Virginia, if you could ask the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia any question about cannabis policy, what would you ask them? So let Radhika know in the comments. Let Radhika know. Local, yes. Local on Instagram says they need to just straight up legalize it for personal and retail sale on the federal level. Yeah, absolutely. That is called ending federal prohibition. That requires an act of Congress. That requires us as citizens to elect people to Congress and to this seat of president who will do that. We have to elect people to the Senate and to the House who will pass a bill. The House has passed bills to end prohibition before, multiple times. The Senate has not. That's up to us to elect those people, and then after whoever's in office, to lobby them to make good choices. And then you have to elect a president who would sign a bill. So. Hi, Keenan in Indiana. It's all about showing you the money, what money they need to show you. Why? Stuff. All right, let's get back into some news. So we talked about the Harris campaign. We talked about Nebraska. I'm saving that one for the end because it's my favorite. Here's one that a lot of you will like, but also will go, yeah, of course it does. There was a study that we reported on Thursday about cannabis edibles reducing chronic lower back pain. And here's what some of the researchers had to say. Decreases in pain intensity were most pronounced in patients who consumed THC dominant edibles. CBD dominant products were, quote, primarily associated with short-term tension relief rather than significant reductions in acute pain. So there's a study about cannabis edibles and chronic low back pain. Let's see. Two more, and then we've got all right, here we go. Let's do the Pennsylvania story first. Nick, are you listening? It's Pennsylvania. I know Melissa, right? Okay, so Pittsburgh lawmakers have enacted a local ordinance that protects employment rights for medical cannabis patients. Good job, Pittsburgh. That was a short one. And good job, Pittsburgh NORML. We did that one. We did that one. We did that one. We did Nebraska. I'm saving that one for last. Okay, here we go. Schizophrenia. So we're getting into these last two news stories are great from the perspective of the prohibitionists. So we hear a lot about, oh, schizophrenia. Well, here's a study that just came out, and it says cannabis legalization is associated with fewer hospitalizations among schizophrenia patients. Yeah. Oh, and then Paul's comment is, of course, perfect. Paul says, quote, these results illustrate that cannabis regulation coupled with consumer education can provide sufficient safeguards to protect and potentially even improve mental health outcomes, particularly among more vulnerable populations. Again, it's amazing what happens when you take marijuana off the street corner and put it behind an age-verified counter so that you can better provide for public and consumer safety. It's almost like that's how it works. Thanks. And yes, local CBD does have medical properties besides helping with minor discomfort. It is an anti-inflammatory. It has anti-inflammatory properties. Would probably be a more appropriate way to say it. It's an anxiolytic, meaning it helps ease anxiety, and it has anticonvulsant properties as well. Like you said, can be helpful with epilepsy, with seizure disorders. All right, and here's the last one. Here's the last news of the week. And this one is definitely my favorite. I agree, Wade. I agree. Wade says schizophrenia and Alzheimer's are both health issues that more research with cannabis is strongly needed. Let's put that back up there. I don't know that more research is strongly needed. I mean, not that we should stop doing research, right? But let's, as you well know, Wade, let's keep in mind that cannabis is one of the most studied substances on earth. You're going to find over 50,000 entries on PubMed referencing cannabis or one of its constituents right now. We have in clinical applications for cannabis and cannabinoids, a review of the recent scientific literature. You are going to see a section on Alzheimer's. We have a section, well, I'm showing you the table of contents, like that's interesting. But we do have an entire section covering Alzheimer's and papers on Alzheimer's. There we go. Still not exciting, but Alzheimer's. And if you go to the NORML website and look at schizophrenia, you're going to see a number of studies referencing schizophrenia. So while I don't dislike the desire for more studies, I think that people could just pay attention to what exists instead of listening to prohibitionists who are mouthing off to sustain, whatever business model that profits off of prohibition, right? Like, there's one big prohibitionist org out there that's funded by urine testing. They don't want marijuana to be legal. You're going to sell a lot fewer urine tests, Okay, anyhow, we agree, Wade, but like also people look at the bulk of data that already exist. But this one. Okay, this one is about the fentanyl-laced marijuana trope. And I know we have talked about this before. And Paul has made very thoughtful comments on this as well. But a 10-year analysis was just done. A 10-year analysis was done on forensic labs identifying the presence of fentanyl in illicit cannabis samples. This was published in The Lancet, Regional Health Americas, and Harvard Medical School researchers reviewed drug chemistry results from nearly 12 million samples of illicit substances seized by law enforcement between 2013 and 2023. And they identified fentanyl in fewer than 2% of all the samples tested. Now, fentanyl co-occurrence was most prevalent in heroin, but was otherwise, quote, low among non-opioid substances. Fewer than 3% of cocaine seizures tested positive for fentanyl, and only 1% of methamphetamine samples tested positive for it. Cannabis samples were still less likely than all of them to test positive for fentanyl. Authors say this, quote, our results show no evidence of widespread fentanyl co-occurrences with cannabis. So, can we put that trope to rest? Probably not, but here it is, a 10-year analysis. Authors are very clear. There we have it. People, no one's trying to put fentanyl in weed. It's like that commercial where it's a bunch of old ladies and they're like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Okay? Yeah, or right, exactly, local. Buy from a legal dispensary where third-party analytical laboratory testing is required. Yeah, it is. It's terrible. Okay. This is why regulation works. Yeah, Woodyard, you should take a stroll around the NORML website. Just put schizophrenia in the search bar, and you will see a lot of data that lines up with what you're saying. I know, insulin, right? Insulin says, why would anyone lace cannabis with fentanyl? It's just insane. It makes no sense for return on investment, right? Everyone in the comments is saying that's a bad business model. Oh, Dr. Paul taught you in Oaksterdam? That's great. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Melissa. Melissa goes, are also not putting weed in the Halloween candy. Well, that's next week. Next week, we're going to trot that. Look for that on every local news next week. Oh, yeah. No. All right. We did it. We did all the stories. We did all the newses. It's a rough start to this show. I have a few. I have a few events to tell you about. First, I want to make sure you know that early voting is underway around the country, and your state might be one of those. If you want to find out if your state has early voting, you can go to the link that I just put in the comments. If you're watching on Instagram, sorry, I can't share links with you there, but you can go to Ballotpedia, and they have an early voting. You'll find the link to the early voting states page there. You have to vote. You have to make a plan to vote. If you have early voting, you can vote early, great. Regardless of whether it's early or the day of, please make your plan to vote. Please help people you care about make their plan to vote. People are more likely to vote and more likely to vote for someone or something when they have a personal contact on that. When you personally reach out to someone and say, hey, remember, legalization's on the ballot in Florida. So do you know what day you're going to vote? Can I help you make that plan? Do you want to go with me? Do you want to vote early? Are you eligible to vote early, right? If you can do that with people you know and then ask them to do the same, that's a really effective way to help get out the vote. And remember, there are a number of ballot initiatives around the country, and voters need to turn up for those. We have North Dakota, South Dakota, Florida, so far Nebraska, and then Texas as well. You can see all of the pending ballot initiatives, ballot measures around the country at NORML's Election Central. This is at normal.org/election. So you'll see, you can get all the information you need about each of these initiatives. In Florida, we have Amendment 3 to legalize adult use. In Nebraska, there are 2 medical access initiatives. Had to be 2 separate bills, 2 separate initiatives in order to meet the criteria that the state has for, let's say, single subject, is the easy way to say it. Of course, there's a lawsuit happening in Nebraska, but it's still, people are still going to see this on their ballot. North Dakota has adult use on the ballot again. South Dakota has adult use on the ballot. And then Texas, there are 3 cities that have local measures, Bastrop, Dallas, and Lockhart. So make sure you are making your plan to vote. And in addition to marijuana being on the ballot in some areas, there are also people on your ballot, and you want to know where they stand before you vote for them. So you can check out our voter guide called Smoke the Vote at vote.normal.org and see where the people stand on cannabis policy before you vote for them. Local says it's a good time to be alive, seeing the transition to legal cannabis. Yeah, it's an interesting time to work in cannabis policy. Blue Dream, tell me about what you dislike about Texas. And Texas does have a medical cannabis program. It is serving patients, but there's so much room for improvement there. That's really a good place to focus in Texas until you can elect people to the state legislature who are supportive of more meaningful cannabis policy reform. Almost like elections have consequences. Chris, can you tell me more? Chris says some electrical unions stop testing for THC and some you'll lose your job. What's that about? Is that state specific, Chris, or just in general? Can you tell me more? I'll anxiously await your response. While I'm waiting for Chris's response, I will also add that, hey, Suncoast NORML, our Florida, one of our Florida chapters, they do a podcast on YouTube, streams live on Sundays at 11 a.m. So if you're into that, you can jump in the rotation with Suncoast NORML on YouTube. Just look for Suncoast NORML on YouTube. Oh, you mean prescribe. Oh, okay. Yeah, but look, Texas has a medical cannabis program. Virginia had something similar where they used the word prescription in their 1979 law, which was, no, it's not how it works. But yeah, focus on improving teacup in Texas for sure. Local brings up in Virginia that we have legalized personal possession and cultivation, but we don't have retail sales for adult use. And it says it makes no sense. It does make no sense, particularly for a governor who is supposedly tough on crime because he's a Republican and thinks that marijuana needs to be kept out of the hands of children. So then why are you keeping marijuana on the street corner instead of behind an age-verified counter, Governor Youngkin? That doesn't seem like a policy choice there. We have dispensaries in Virginia that already safely regulate medical cannabis. And you know what every state does when it expands from medical to adult use regulation? Turns on sales at existing operators. Why are we not doing that here? Oh, because you don't care about this policy area? Got it. Okay. Moving on. I'm still waiting for your feedback on that, Chris. Yeah, it does force everyone to get a medical cannabis certification. At least we don't have a made-up list of conditions or an age limit in Virginia. I would love to let you all know about NORML Tallahassee. They are having a chapter meeting. I know that they were taking a minute to get things rescheduled because of all the terrible weather that Florida's suffered in recent weeks. But NORML Tallahassee's chapter meeting will be October. That was October 15th. It already happened. Ugh. Okay. Look at that. I was so excited to tell you. It happened on October 15th. I'm sure they'll have another one. God, good grief. I hope you're watching this, Melissa. Heading into December, the 2024 NORML Key West Legal Seminar is December 5 through 7 at the Pier House Resort and Spa in Key West, Florida. Hey, if you're an attorney and you need CLEs, we got you. Our legal seminars are fully accredited in every state that requires CLEs for practicing attorneys. If you're not an attorney or you just don't need the CLEs, good news, we have a discounted rate for you. This is a really fantastic seminar, whether you're an attorney or not. Everyone is welcome, and you can check that out at norml.org/Key West. Register now, get your hotel room before the discounted block sells out, and come hang out in Key West with me, Keith, and Paul. The year is almost over. Speaking of the year almost being over, let's talk about January, shall we? The 2025. Gosh, I wasn't prepared for that. The 2025 Virginia Cannabis Conference will be January 24th through January 26th. Tickets are not on sale yet. They will be soon, but you can mark your calendars now. And you can visit the website at virginiacannabisconference.com. Yes. Everyone say bye to Angela. Everyone say hi to Angela. And then say, bye, Angela.
Bye.
I'm so sad that you're leaving.
I'll see you in January.
I will. You'll see Angela and her amazing art at the Virginia Cannabis Conference in January.
Yes,
This is what we're talking about now. Bye. And then Virginia NORML Lobby Day is, of course, right after the conference. It's that following Monday. It's the Monday after Gun Day, as we say in Virginia. It's January 27th, and you can go ahead and register for that now. I do have that form open on the website. I hope it seems to be having issues. Oh, no, it published. Okay. Yes, Woodyard Roanoke College does have a cannabis course. It does. I am aware of that. Excuse me. Chris, I don't know if you're still here watching or not, but if you're asking about Virginia regarding employment testing, if you're an employee in Virginia, there has to be a reason to test an employee for, well, I guess you could just do it, but you cannot discharge, discriminate against, or just discipline an employee for their lawful use of medical cannabis in the state of Virginia. But tell me more about the question you're asking. Thank you, Melissa, for the reminder. Curtis. Everyone wish Curtis luck, hoping to get a job in Missouri. It's a Turner. Hey, Chris, thank you for that. Yeah, it's if this is Virginia specific, pre-employment drug testing is still permissible. There's nothing about that in current code because the code is written specifically for employees. So you have to already be an employee. Blue Dream, I don't disagree with you regarding cannabis courses. In this instance, though, it's simply a college course that you get credit for. Everyone's wishing you good luck, Curtis. I know you can't see the Instagram comments because you're watching on YouTube, but there are comments. Everyone's saying good luck, Curtis, on Instagram. Ryan on Instagram. You made me spit out my chai. All right, friends, this has been a lot of fun. Hey, NORML's weekend weed read comes out tomorrow morning. There's still time for you to make sure it hits your inbox. Just head to norml.org/subscribe. Make sure you check the weekend weed read box so it always delivers to you on Saturdays. But you can get all of these weekly stories delivered straight to your inbox every Thursday and every Saturday. Just head to norml.org/subscribe. And I would also like to let you all know that if you want one of these cards, 2024, if you want a 2024 NORML membership, I want you to make sure you donate $42 or more to NORML before November 1st, because November 1st, we're going to switch over to the 2025 cards. So it really is your last chance this month. Get in your $42 so that you can get your official 2024 NORML member card. Got to catch them all, friends. Same thing goes for Virginia NORML, except it's $25. But they're both going to switch on November 1. Curtis, the Blue Dream, would like you to know that they started as a trimmer 10 years ago and have been lucky enough to work most of the industry jobs. Good experience to have, says Local. Chris, I'm not going to read that, but you. All right, friends. Hey, I think that my calendar's on September. I'm not batting 1,000. Yeah, next week's the 25th. That sounds good. Hey, how about we do this again next week? Does that sound fun? Hit that like, follow, or subscribe button, whatever it is on the platform you're watching the show, so that you don't miss when NORML goes live. We try to do it every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And of course, you can always watch the show back later on your own time. Hey, everyone, this has been a blast. I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend. And as always, I'll see you back here next time. Bye-bye.